Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Tim.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, you from Brooklyn or something now?
Maybe.
Yes, it's a horror movie podcast. We get together, we watch the horror movie, we talk about it, and sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it's a bad thing, and more on that in a second. So we like to work through the big franchises, of course, and we've done some of the bigger ones. And
your leprechauns, your boys.
It's not what I had in mind when I said big ones, no. But we have been working through a number of things. We've got a few smaller ones that we kind of started that we do need to get back to and finish, and we'll do that in due course. But we are here today to do the 8th entry in a franchise that, like, honestly, obviously, like, there's bad Halloween movies, right? And there's one or two bad...
Halloween Kills.
There's one or two bad Friday the 13th, and there's, you know, a couple of bad Nightmare on Elm Streets, but I gotta be honest, like, I feel like there's another tier of horror franchise where, regardless of the original and maybe even the first few, like, this franchise, and the franchise in the question, of course, is Hellraiser, is that the sequels in this franchise after, like, the third or fourth, like, really, it's like a whole new, like, this makes me wish for Halloween Resurrection. Like, I wish I was watching Halloween Resurrection as I'm watching this, and, you know, the last 3 or 4. So, you know, this has been like a real trip through a nasty, nasty place, has this franchise been beyond the first few. And I even have a soft spot for the third one. We were both kind of into it, you know, faults and all. But, hey-ho. We're here today to talk about the 8th Hellraiser film. This is Hellraiser Hellworld, and like the past few, I had to like triple check I had the right one before I started watching it, because there was a risk. There was a risk of getting the wrong one.
You know, I have I have a DVD set, and it's like one of those super cheap, like 6 DVDs, like 6 movies on like one DVD kind of thing. So all I knew is that I had one left to watch on that DVD, so I knew it was that one. But it's like this thing is like so cheap that they didn't even have like the movies in the right order, so they had Hellworld on there, and luckily I knew, like, I can barely remember the other ones, but I remember that this was the one that I haven't watched yet. But it's like when you go to like the menu screen to pick the one, this one was like right in the middle. Like, it's like they don't even have them in order. That's like how cheap the DVD was that it's on.
Well, I can't, you know, I remembered that this one, the last one, had the same director, but when I looked up the franchise just before we started, I was shocked to discover that the director also did the 6th one. So this is the 3rd one in a row by the same director, which would make you think that there was some connectivity between the 3 of them, that they feel like a set, like, you know, like some franchises have like almost like a middle trilogy or something like that, where it's like you can see a little bit of continuity in a little set, you know. In Friday the 13th, for example, you have, you know, Tommy Jarvis is like a thing for a few movies, and that feels like a little set in the middle, or something like that. The Jar-Village, yes.
Yeah. That's what true fans call it.
You know, for Halloween it might be the Jamie character. You know, you group a few movies together with her, which would be sadly 4, 5, and 6. And I love 4, but, you know, 5 and 6 are not a good time. So yeah.
What's funny is like Halloween 6, I felt like always had such a bad reputation, but like the more and more worse movies they put out, like the more 6 kind of like goes up, in my opinion. It's like like before, I feel like I would have had it pretty down below in the list. Now it's kind of like right nice in the middle because of all the other ones that, like,
I suppose in that sense. But if you think about it more like you've got a graph, right, and you've got an X and a Y axis. If you think about the graph is going below the 0, and it keeps going below the 0, it's not that Halloween 6 is any higher, it's still at the 0. Right. It's just that they've somehow sunk lower and lower as time has went on. But anyway, so you would think, 3 of them back to back, same director. In fact, this one and the last one came out in the same year. They both came out in 2005. So you'd think at least those 2 would be like, they made them back to back, so they were written together, and maybe they were a 2-parter or something. This movie is so far away conceptually from the last one, which, if you know, it's been a while since we did it now, but correct me if I'm wrong, but it was the journalist who was trying to investigate the cult who worshipped
I believe
Pinhead.
so.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is like so far from that, right? Don't get me wrong.
I mean, this like literally takes place in another universe. Like, this is like kind of. I mean, am I wrong? Like, this is in a universe where the Hellraiser movies are movies, and it's not like the other movies actually happened.
Did they mention there was movies? I don't know if they did. Like, I kind of took this as it's still meant to be the same universe, but like this game, it revolves around a video game called Hellworld. That this was like this existed in the world because the myth of Pinhead and the Cenobites had become an urban legend or something.
Possibly. I mean, I guess the reason why I kind of thought that is because like people are wearing Pinhead T-shirts and stuff, and it's like the same Pinhead from the movie. So that kind of. But I mean, this movie doesn't explain anything. So
yeah, most of this movie doesn't make sense. So I wouldn't surprise me if that's just a mistake, or not a mistake, but that's just them saying, "Oh, who cares? No one will notice or give a shit." It's like, no, we do. We're not idiots. We notice these things. So that said, though, I have to say, everyone said to me before this is the video game one. This is the one that's a bit of video game. I was kind of surprised just how after the setup, the video game part of it was irrelevant. It's just that what gets them all to this place, and then once they're at this mansion, it's just, the video game has nothing to do with any of it anymore at that point. I guess it's just a way to remember it because it starts off with them all playing some sort of online game called Hellworld. But this is 2005. This is, I think this is the year. Okay, I have to make a joke here, right? Tara requested. She made a joke and said, "You have to say this and credit me." And don't you worry, there was no way I would say this and not blame her.
Okay.
For it. Hellworld of Warcraft. There we go. See, happy.
That's good.
So what I was going to say is that I think this is the year that World of Warcraft actually launched. So the idea of an online game that everyone's playing is kind of like in vogue around this time period.
Yeah. I know. What would we be looking at system wise? Like the PS3 be out yet?
No PS3. This would be, I think, the 360 might have launched late 2005. That might have been like when that first launched. But 2005 we're still kind of more towards the end of the. I mean, this is the year that Resident Evil 4 came out. So we're in GameCube and Xbox and PS2 for the most part territory.
Okay.
Yeah. So puts it in perspective. Yeah. Where we are. We do have some notable cast members in this, though. At least I was pleasantly surprised when Lance Henriksen showed up, even though between this and Scream 3, Lance Henriksen, as much as I love him, showing up in a horror sequel is not a good sign.
Sure.
And it's not because he's bad, but there's just a bit of a curse laid upon him when it comes to these types of movies. We have a young Henry Cavill as one of the main characters, and his name stuck out because I noticed his name in the credits and I went, wait, Henry Cavill? He was acting in 2005? I did not know that. And then our lead is Catherine Winnick, who I don't really know from anything, but I recognise the name because before the Birds of Prey movie, before the casting was announced, I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying that she should be Black Canary, and I think she's big on a TV show called Vikings. I think it's Vikings she's in, that people know her from. But
interesting.
But I didn't know from anything. But she is like a TV star now, so people do know who she is. So that's another name in this where they went on to do other things that were, more successful. And even if I hate Vikings, it's definitely better than this. So I don't know if I hate Vikings. I'm just saying, even in the worst case scenario where I think that show is garbage, and it might be great, it's probably still better than this.
Well, you still got a little bit of a grudge for what they did to your country.
Sure. I mean, it's literally ancient history, but sure. Yes, so the premise is that all of these young college-age people are all avid players of this video game, and one of the players who, and this is all kind of like backstory we don't really get to see much of, but one of them commits suicide, and we jump ahead 2 years later, and they all unlock invites to a secret party for players of the game at a mansion, and there's lots of dubious just like acceptance of like all of this by the characters. Like no one questions anything. It's kind of weird. But Lance Henriksen's the host. He's throwing the party, and of course, as the movie goes on, weird stuff starts to happen, and they start to be killed off one by one. And if you're thinking to yourself, killed off one by one, that doesn't sound like a Hellraiser mythos. Now, admittedly, Hellraiser mythos has changed movie to movie quite a bit since like the first couple. So that's a fair point, but that has altered quite a bit. I mean, I don't know how much of a spoiler-free section we're going to do, but let's just say there's some twists in this one that kind of explain it, but more on that in a little bit. I mean, it's obvious how we feel, but I'll ask the question for, the format of the show's sake, I guess. Tim, did you enjoy Hellraiser Hellworld?
I gotta say, I was kind of pleasantly surprised. I thought the way that I'm kidding, of course. This is no, yeah, this is absolute trash. I actually was kind of looking forward to this. This was one I've never seen before, and yeah, the last couple of movies have been kind of I mean, it would be generous to say a chore to get through, but like you mentioned, I had heard this one was the video game one, so I was actually kind of excited because I didn't think this was in any way going to be a good movie, but just hearing like the idea of like, oh, it's a Hellraiser movie and they're playing a video game, and just like, I don't know, imagining people like dumb gamer speak and like, showing like crappy video game footage and like Hellraiser coming out of a computer. Like I was like, oh, this is probably going to be a super fun, cheese fest. And like you said, the video game aspect has absolutely nothing to do. Like I think you see like maybe 2 seconds of
and the game,
like video game screens.
They did not have the budget to have a fake game that's properly like a video game, or even like just use like footage of another game and pretend it's Hellraiser. Yeah. They have what's effectively a choose your own adventure flash game that comes up on the screen.
Yeah, it is like so funny when they play it, because it's like, I mean, the puzzle boxes already, like, it's always kind of seems kind of weird how they figure it out. Like it doesn't really seem to be any indication of like what you should do or whatever, but seeing people play it like on a screen is like even more so. Like, why would anyone play this? And yeah, I mean, I think that's a big detriment if we're supposed to be following these main characters who are gamers and they're obsessed with this game and everything, and then it's like you don't even ever see the game or anything. And I'm sorry, but if you're gonna make a movie about gamers, can you please make them look like gamers? Like, I don't know why like these Abercrombie and Fitch models like were trying to say that they were like into gaming, but I'm like, no way that these people would be obsessed like with an online video game.
Gamers like, can be anyone, Timmy. That's not.
No, they can't. They have to look like me.
I mean, it's very 2005. Like I particularly noticed it on. I mean, they all have like the guys all have kind of like taken care of hair. It's a bit shaggy, but I did notice that the main girl's like outfit, which was like leather trousers and like a leather top, and I was like, this is like super mid 2000s, this outfit. Like it just, it really struck me. And there's a lot of like in the party they go to, there's a lot of like death metal playing, a lot of strobe lights, it's very much of that era, and you can kind of feel the time period. In fact, the Jake is a character who I was convinced, the guy who died at the start, right, the friend who died, I was convinced the whole movie that Jake, who's kind of the separate one who they all kind of dislike a little bit because he's a bit of an outsider, he's a bit of a loner, he's kind of mad at them for the death of the guy in the past. I was convinced he was the dead guy's brother the whole movie until he was shocked to discover something about him. And I went, oh, I guess he's not his brother. All right, fair enough. I got that impression for some reason that he was his brother, and that's why he was so pissed at them for like letting him like go get too in the game and like eventually kill himself because of it.
It's so dumb. I mean, the big like problem, I mean, one of the big problems with this movie is that it's just very boring and dull. Like, again, I was hoping that I was gonna be like laughing at how dumb and stupid it was, and instead it's just really tedious. Like, yeah, most of the movie is like them at this party at this mansion. All the characters are annoying. I didn't really like spending time with any of them. I don't think they had chemistry with anyone. The deaths aren't very, cool, or they don't really look great. The movie itself just doesn't look nice. You could definitely see the budget on screen. And then like once you do kind of find out what is going on and what is with the story, it is ridiculously stupid. Like it is once, like you said, there's like some twists and turns. Once you kind of find out what is happening, I was like really pissed at it because it is like such a dumb time waster that it's pretty infuriating.
It's a bit convoluted, to say the least. I think on the game itself, I don't want to, because there's something I want to crack a joke, but I can't really do it until spoilers.
Okay.
But the thing about the video game itself is that they are so vague about what the game is, or how it plays, or what you're supposed to actually achieve in it, what the point of the game is. How do they all keep playing it? Because it kind of feels like, we see a glimpse of them, like one of them finds the puzzle box and that gives them the invite, and I'm like, okay, but what are you doing most when you're not getting this invite? Like, what's the goal? Are you just trying to find the box? And if you find the box, then what do you get from the box? Like, everything about it was just very like I don't know. It was also like glossed over in. Like,
like the game is literally just like each level is just you finding a box and opening it, and yet like somehow people are like addicted to this game.
It's one of those things where you do feel like whoever wrote this probably had never played a video game and didn't really know
absolutely not.
what to say about it, or the director had never played a video game, so just thought, that sounds like video game speak. That'll do. But that is really it. Like it moves on from there, and that is it. And it's just a plot device to like.
It's just so stupid and specific though that it's like, all right, if you're gonna bring it up, I mean, it's the title of the movie, like if you're gonna emphasize it, then like you got to go all in. Like I want to see people playing this and like like shitty FMV like Pinhead cutscenes and him like coming out of a TV, like crap like that, like a PlayStation that turns into the puzzle box.
Oh, that's good.
Or a GameCube, actually. That'd be better.
GameCube would be better. What I was hoping for when I knew this was the video game one is that like somehow Cenobites got into the internet and they like no one designed the video game. It's sort of something that materialized from the Cenobites who are in the internet. Because there's an episode of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer in which a demon gets scanned into a computer, and it's an early season 1 episode called I, Robot, You, Jane. And I was thinking, it's going to be like Pinhead version of that. It's going to be him in the computer, like try to reach out to people. Again, like Pinhead's motivations are all over the place because he didn't really have motivations in the first movie. He didn't come after people specifically, whereas that's something that the later movies all seem to have him like gunning for people or wanting to. The other big problem with this, now I'll give it at least one bit of credit. It's the first movie in like 4 movies that isn't about someone investigating. It's not a cop or a journalist, right? So it at least felt like it had a slightly different like premise. So it wasn't a good premise, but at least it was different. So I'll give it that. But it still had the same problem that a lot of these other movies do, which is that very quickly you realize you can't trust anything they're seeing at this party. Like there's all these little hints that it's either in their heads or they're in a dream world or something, whatever it may be. And as soon as they start hinting at that, it's like, well, none of this matters, and people can just appear and disappear. Lance Henriksen feels like he's teleporting around. They'll see Pinhead at random moments for little glimpses or whatever. Like anything can happen at any point. So there's no rules. Things just happen whenever they want them to, and it's just not satisfying in any way. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's my problem.
No, I agree. It feels like a very lifeless movie. Like there's just there's nothing about it that like entices you or brings you in. Like there's nothing charming or anything. It's like there's nothing that really, like if we weren't doing the podcast, I don't know if I would have finished it.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. That's a fair statement. And it's the last Doug Bradley Pinhead I think as well. I think the last 2 films are someone else. Yeah. So they're also much later because the next one. I wish that would be funny.
I think he would make a good Pinhead.
Yeah, because so there's 2 more left currently that have been made. There's like more in development. They've been going back and forth. Like David Goyer's threatening to write one, but there's 2 more to get to. The next one's from 2011, so that was 6 years later, and then the newest one's from 2018. So
that one I've seen. This is on Netflix for a while, so I actually did watch that one.
And interestingly, they're directed by different people, but they're written by the same person. These next 2, so I'll be curious to see if there's any connective tissue between them.
I mean, maybe we'll need some tissues when we watch it.
For tears,
take that however you want.
For tears or another substance.
I mean, either way, the movie's doing its job if it's eliciting that reaction.
Actually, on the subject of that other substance,
jeez.
No, so actually, the last thing we'll talk about before we get into just talking about whatever we want, because spoilers, who gives a shit? It's Hellraiser 8. No one cares. So in this movie, Henry Cavill gets a blowjob, and this is like a weird thing to bring up, but the reason why I'm bringing it up is because he looks like he's listening to a dull podcast the entire time he's getting this blowjob. And I get that he's slightly distracted, but even if you're distracted, the act that is happening to one's penis will elicit something other than just this look of like just boredom. And I suppose it's a perfect encapsulation of this movie. Like the movie's saying, hey, we're going to be entertaining, like a lady might say, hey, I'm going to give you a great blowjob, and then you're just sitting there and you just feel dead inside. Like that is that's maybe the best metaphor for this whole movie. Is it's a blowjob where you feel nothing. There's nothing.
Sure. I thought it was too creepy with having the mask on the top of her head, so it's like
yeah, it looked like a face.
I didn't like it. Yeah, it was very weird.
Yeah, because
like getting a blowjob from Gabriel or something.
Because the camera comes over your shoulder and you see like, cause it's basically like a white mask, but she sort of like slid it up to her head. So she's like bobbing up and down, but the face of the mask is like bobbing up and down in front of your face. It's pretty creepy. Yeah.
I miss going to parties.
Get a lot of weird in public blowjobs, did you, Tim? In your day?
Actually, I was just listening to a podcast and they were talking about there's like a big Hollywood guy that basically got like fired because he like had a big party and like got a blowjob in the middle of it, like just in front of everyone. I think it was the guy that wrote In the Mouth of Madness.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can't say I'm surprised that a Hollywood producer might be skeevy when it comes to things of a sexual nature. But
I should probably put allegedly when I say that, because we don't want to get sued. Allegedly, this happened.
Yes, allegedly. It sounds consensual, at least.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I don't think.
And inappropriate.
Like that,
inappropriate in front of all those people, but consensual, at least, you know. It's a win.
Celebrities are weird.
They are.
You hear about the weird shit they do. It's like, geez, like, even if I was like, well, when I'm super famous and rich, like I'm probably just gonna do the same dumb shit. Like I'm just gonna sit around my house and read comic books. I'm not gonna all of a sudden be like, oh, I should join a cult, or like,
yes,
you know, I want to fly, you know, my car into the water or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, the only difference might be is that you might be sitting reading Action Comics #1.
That's true. Yeah.
That's the one difference. You've taken it out of the protective plastic and you're reading Action Comics. Like, Tim, you're literally losing hundreds of thousands of dollars every time you touch it. Stop it. All right, spoilers for Hellraiser Hellworld. You know you're all here for it. Honestly, I think we start at the end and talk about the twist, and then just bring up other stuff that we want to afterwards. Because so as the movie's playing out, there's moments where characters are kind of like there's like a scene where Jake, who's the sort of loner one, no one's listening to him. Like he's asking for a drink, and then he tries to talk to some people, and no one's paying attention to him. So it's like, okay, something's weird here. And then there's another scene where the main girl tries to phone the police, and she sees the police outside, but they can't see her at the window. And it's like, wait, is she in like a different reality? Like, if they actually crossed over into some sort of Hellworld dimension where they're not actually in the same plane of existence as anyone else. The twist. brace yourselves for this. The twist in this movie is that Lance Henriksen is the father of the kid who killed himself in the opening title sequence. Because the movie starts with his funeral. We get like a quick shot of him like digging, and then it just cuts to a funeral. The guy's dead already. It turns out that Lance Henriksen's his father. None of them knew this until they see a photo of like Lance and his son sort of side by side, all happy, and he blames this group for having him addicted to the game, and he blames their friendship in the game for driving him to suicide. So he has arranged this whole thing, this whole party. It's taken him 2 years to arrange this to get revenge. And you might be wondering, well, what exactly is going on then? Because throughout the movie, we've been seeing them go into various rooms and being killed by Pinhead. And there's a couple of moments where a character even thinks he is Pinhead, because the movie kind of makes it look like that. It kind of makes it look like he's turning into Pinhead in some scenes. The actual twist, though, is that he basically knocked them all out with roofies the second they got there, and he's buried them alive outside the mansion, but they've all got like pipes for air so they can actually breathe still, and they've got hallucinogenics, and he is like sending some subliminal messages through Nokia mobile phones that he's put in the caskets with them, and this is like what's inspiring all of their like what they're seeing in the party and everything that's happened to them. And the ones who died have still died. Like, their deaths coincided with something real that killed them. Like, one guy has asthma, so he actually just died of that in the coffin. The other guy, Henry Cavill, just died of fear. The other girl, I can't even remember what it said. She choked on something, I think.
I think she, like, ripped her throat out and, like, like, scratched her throat out or something. And then in like, the fantasy or whatever, or hallucination she's having, it looks like she turns herself into that female Cenobite that's like from the first movie and has like the weird throat thing.
Well, I mean, she turns into a Cenobite without doing any of the rest of it though. Like, because there's a point where a couple of them show up almost zombie-esque, but they're not like, it's like, okay, if you're going to turn into a Cenobite, you go full hog. You get the black outfit, you get the pale makeup, and you do the whole shebang. They're like, it's like just having a slightly injured face is not enough to be a Cenobite. You lazy pricks.
Yeah, it does feel though like as you're going down the line of the people that died, it does seem like they kind of started running out of ideas because like you said, the last one is just like, well, he just died of straight up fear. Like,
yes.
Oh, okay.
So you couldn't think of anything then. So you just said fear.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they had the idea for like them being in the coffins and stuff, and then realized like, oh, it's not a lot of different ways you could die if you're just in a coffin.
So just to clarify this, Lance Henriksen buried them all alive in coffins, and he is making them hallucinate everything they've been doing all movie. So everything's been a lie. Which, by the way, right at the start of the movie, there's a moment at the end of the funeral or something around there where the main character sees something scary, and she wakes up 2 years later. So we do the crappy fake out dream wake up, right?
And this actually really made me laugh because the way they did it is it made it seem like she has a dream and then wakes up 2 years later. Because it's like they have like the fake jump scare of like, oh, it's a dream. Oh, I wake up, and then it just says 2 years later. But like when you're watching it, I was like, wait a minute, wait, like almost like she just had this dream and then like woke up 2 years later. It's like very strange. Like if the whole beginning like was supposedly a dream, then what is a 2 years later from? I don't know. It's so weird.
Well, this is one of these problems that you find in a lot of these crappy low-budget horror movies, is that they do this, but they still want the thing they dreamed to be an actual genuine flashback as well. So you have this weird thing where it's like, oh no, she was remembering it exactly as it happened, except the ending that was scary.
Yeah.
And then she woke up. And, we've complained about the fake dream wake-up thing over and over again. It's actually an omen for this movie, though, because that ends up in the entire twist. They're all dreaming. The entire movie's them dreaming in coffins, and then they wake up. Or she wakes up, at least.
Fits together. Now, so was it Lance Henriksen's, like, did he actually want them to die, or was he just trying to scare them and it's just, like, ended up being too intense that, a couple of them died?
No, I think he wanted them to die. I think he left her and Jake, who was still alive technically, to, like, just, starve in the coffins. Okay. And they get saved though because apparently the ghost of the guy who committed suicide at the start of the movie, it's implied that he phoned the police to come and get them, and that's what saves her and Jake.
Of course.
There's a moment where she looks up at the window and his ghost is just sort of standing there. It's like, so just to clarify something else here, that if you didn't realize this, is that every single time you've seen Pinhead in this movie up until this point has not been real. It's not really been him. There's not actually any Cenobite stuff going on. Like Lance Henriksen claims the mansion was built by the architect who built the box. And okay, that's kind of loosely connecting to like some mythology we know about, but like other than that, it gives all this history about how it was this was a place for nuns, but then it turned into an insane asylum, and then it turned into this, and there was like experiments happening here, and there's like all these jars of body parts and all this nonsense.
And except for at the very, very end with Lance Henriksen in his hotel room, it's like, then I guess it's real. Like,
yeah,
when he gets the puzzle box.
Like, it's funny because I almost would have respected the balls of the movie a little bit, even though I'd be pissed off. It's like, this isn't really a Hellraiser movie then, is it? But I'd respect it a little bit if like he got away with this and just left, and that was the end of the movie, and like, oh no, there was never any real Pinhead stuff, there was never any real Hellraiser stuff. But then they do the thing at the end where his son did have the real lament configuration. So at the end of the movie, he's sitting in the hotel room and he pulls it out and he actually opens it. Then the real Pinhead and a couple of Cenobites show up, and he's like, I should have come for you a long time ago. And then his Cenobite buddy, who's got like sort of like black tape like covering his eyes, he swipes his big like blade at him, and we get some of the worst CG like chopping up a person and letting them fall. You know, it's basically that scene from Final Destination 2 where the guy falls apart after the cables, but with much, much, much worse effects.
Yeah.
Really, really bad CG. So there is one real Pinhead scene at the end.
Yeah.
You do see him a few times throughout the film and quick snippets, but it's not really him. So it's all a dream. Because that's always satisfying.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is wild. I mean, I know like every movie, no matter how bad, like has its fans or whatever, but I can't imagine anyone being satisfied with this. Like, you know, I don't know. It's just such a stupid, wild idea, and it feels so over the top. Like, all right, first of all, I think it's like so weird. Like, this guy's like so bent on revenge, but it's not like they, like, I wouldn't say that they're really responsible for his son's death. Like, you know, like it's not like they were doing something and then there was an accident and then like they tried to cover it up or like something like that. It's like, oh no, like you got him into this, like, you know, since, you know, like all they did was like play games with him. It's not like, you know, anything that bad. But then, all right, if you want revenge, fine, but like when people want revenge, they don't go like, all right, what is the most convoluted, like hard to pull off like plot that I can think of? Like, no, like if he's really that upset, he's just gonna like, you know, get a gun and go to these people's houses. He's not gonna, I mean, create a video game invitation to send it. Like, it's like, I mean, we didn't even touch on that. Like, how did he do that? Like, he, like the invitation is through the game, right? So does he know someone that works at the game, or what did he do?
Yeah, he paid someone off to plant this in the video game.
Or like, if his son killed himself because of the game, did he sue the company? And then like part of the settlement was like, just let me throw something into the game.
I mean, obviously, because of the ending, the assumption is that the son did have the box, so he did actually summon real Pinhead, and that's why he committed suicide. It wasn't like because of the game itself, even though the game probably is what made him interested in Hellraiser and Pinhead and everything. So
the game made him interested, and then he went on eBay and found a cheap puzzle box.
Well, when they all walk out of the party, Lance Henriksen walks out and goes, "Welcome, Hellraisers."
Of course.
Honestly, one of the points you made there about like they weren't doing anything that like from everything we see, all we ever know is that they played this game together, like, you know, like a World of Warcraft clan. Like they logged in together and played the game, even though it doesn't seem like it's multiplayer from anytime we see the game being played.
Yeah.
But let's ignore that for a second. Because of that, I actually kept expecting, like, especially early on, like when you know, when Jake showed up and he seemed to blame, you know, this is the loner character and he seems to blame the rest of the group as well for what happened to this guy. I was expecting there to be some sort of backstory that was like revealed as the movie went on about, you know, more details as to why, like, maybe they neglected him, maybe they mocked him or something that drove him away, at the very least, if not outright, like, no, they were like doing weird shit in the game that was like summoning Pinhead and That's what killed. I was expecting something where they would feel some sort of guilt and like sort of accept the responsibility, but nothing ever happens. It never comes. There's never any reason why they should be blamed. Beyond the loose sense of, oh, this guy needed help potentially, but other than that, there's nothing. And yeah, the end fate of the game is like convoluted enough, but then you have I'm going to make them all dream they're in the same dream together with the hallucinogenics. What? Yeah, is that something that would even work? Like, it feels like such a, like, I feel you wouldn't really be able to accurately like test it out. Like, I mean, yeah, you can like drug them, but like, I don't know if you are gonna know if your like suggestions are gonna work and what exactly they're gonna see and stuff. I mean, yeah, was that his field? Is he like a sleep scientist or something? Is he been studying all this shit for his whole life, and that's why he knows that he can do this? None of it makes any sensible amount of sense at all. And this is the thing. We're jumping up over to what really the end result is. That doesn't change the fact that like a full hour of this movie is like before we get to that, maybe more than an hour, right? Where it's them together in the mansion, bickering, and then splitting up and all having their own little weird spooky adventures that at least half of which are all sexual in nature. We mentioned Henry Cavill, he ends up with a dancer. And they introduced stuff that I thought, oh, maybe that'll lead to a fun like scare or a fun like sort of spooky thing. Like they introduce this thing where if you want, you can take a white mask that has a number on it, and you take like these burner phones that you supplied them with, and all the masks have this number like on their forehead, and if you see someone you want to just have casual sex with, you just ring the number and maybe they'll accept, and you go and find a room and you get down to business. So they set this up, and the only thing we ever get from it is the weird creepy blowjob that we mentioned. They never use it to like hide someone's face until the last second, or they never use it to like, oh, who's the one who's talking to them, who's wearing the mask. There's never any of that. It's like, what's the point of any of this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that I wasn't at this party, because I would have been such a buzzkill, because I would have just kept asking questions about the game, like, hey, when are we gonna get to the game stuff? Like, oh yeah, don't you want to put on a mask and have anonymous sex? But like, I'm kind of here for the game. Like, when are we gonna talk about that?
Yeah, that's the other thing, I suppose. Yes, if you invited a bunch of World of Warcraft players to a party, I feel like they wouldn't be the like death metal rave orgy group. I mean, maybe some of them would be, but not by large.
Like, at least start like asking some questions or something. Like, people are just like, yeah, this is what we expected. Like, no, wouldn't you be like, what does this have to do with the game? Like, that's why we're here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's presented to them as this is like more about the history that inspired the game, about the real people who made the box, about the real stuff that's happened to people, if you believe it. Although some of them don't, some of them just think it's a bunch of props and whatnot. And I guess it is and isn't. Like, I actually got confused at one point when I started to realize that they weren't in like the real world. Before we got the twist properly, I was like, well, is there actually even a party? Is anyone else even at the mansion? But then at the end of the movie, when he's describing his plan, he does mention he went back in and enjoyed the party for a bit. Like, after he buried them all. I was like, okay, so there is a party. Which makes sense, because I guess when they first arrive, it is real. Like, they walk into a party and there's people there. Because it shows you when they all got drugged. Like, some of them accept a drink, some of them didn't, so they get, like pricked with something later. It's like... but... I mean, what do we see during this? We see... dancer girl seduce Henry Cavill. He's trying to get with the main girl briefly, but she kind of just shoots him down, and that's it. There's not really much more to it than that.
I mean, I really can't emphasize just how boring this whole section is. Like, it's...
Which is because 80% of the movie, by the way, this section. 80%.
Because, I mean, it is mostly, just them walking around. First, like, they're acting like idiots, and then, they all split up, and, like, one guy's getting a blowjob, the other guy loses his inhaler, the other guy just seems to be invisible to people, and then the main girl gets, like, trapped in a room. Yeah,
the loner guy's invisible to people until he randomly just also has sex with someone that... like, now that I'm thinking about it, what was the point of that? Really?
I don't know. It's so dumb. And like, And then like if you're gonna do this whole like hallucination fear thing, like it doesn't feel like any of them are like super specific. Like it's not like they each had like one really specific fear and then like everything is playing out like that. It's just like they all just kind of have this stuff happen to them.
Yeah, I mean, the other two guys kind of get lured in with, like, sexy ladies, and that leads to the demise, but the loner guy, like, just has sex, and then she disappears, and there's maybe, like, a spooky moment briefly, but I guess it ties in because he was lured here because he'd met a girl online that didn't exist. It was just Lance Henriksen. Lance Henriksen was the hot girl who was like, hey,
Catfish.
hey, baby, you into Hellworld? Yeah, sexy, isn't it? Yeah. Hello, fellow college kid. Yes.
Pinhead 69, I sent you a message.
Oh, dear. So yeah, like that's just kind of random. There's a lot of stuff with the main girl, kind of like she's the one who doesn't really get tricked by anything. She's trying to like call for help. She's starting to realize her friends might be in trouble. But yeah, like so much of the movie just blurs together. Like it is
it's boring.
It's a blob of nothing really happening, with the odd like moment of like someone gets their head decap. Like that's the other thing, like seeing like, and obviously it turns out not to really be Pinhead, but Pinhead like just decapitating someone with a blade is kind of weird. It's like because he's not a slasher villain, so I was like,
no.
Fair enough, it turns out not to really be him, but at the same time, I'm like, in the moment, I'm like, this isn't really Pinhead. And I guess that's true, it wasn't really Pinhead, but and maybe if the movie was good, like I would appreciate that they pulled a big swerve on us, that this isn't really the Cenobites, this is like someone just using their myth, and then they get their comeuppance at the end by actually bringing forth the real Pinhead. Like maybe there's something there to that idea, but I mean, like a lot of these other sequels, you can tell that this was a script that had nothing to do with Hellraiser. And to be fair, more than some of the past movies, I feel like they really shoved Hellraiser into this. Like they really by turning the game into a Hellraiser themed game and making it all about Hellraiser lore and all that stuff, it really is ingrained into it. But you can tell this movie completely worked without Hellraiser, where it was just some guy wants revenge, I know what he did last summer style, except it's more drugging everyone and making them imagine spooky shit until some of them die in coffins, and then the ghost saves the last two, and they live happily ever after, except one last bullshit jump scare.
They're like in a car driving somewhere, or something. Yeah,
and Lance Henriksen just appears in the back seat for a moment, and then he's gone, and it's a nothing moment. It's just the end of them. It's like we couldn't just end on Lance Henriksen's death by Pinhead, because it really is kind of the money moment in theory of the movie. We had to cut back to these two bland characters who we didn't care about smiling and going, oh, we're going to go into a different city, we're a couple now, I think, maybe, possibly, and there's a sunset, we spoke about seeing a sunset that one scene earlier in the movie. There's a sunset.
Usually we're up all night playing our games, but now we can actually go see the sunset in person.
Yeah, I also like, I guess depending on where you're starting from, it could make sense if you're starting over on the West Coast, but they're debating where to go, and the impression I was getting in the scene is that they're driving, like, wherever they're going to go. So they're like, oh, let's go to Chicago. And he's like, nah, too cold. How about Miami? And I'm like, those are two pretty far apart places. Like, I mean, I guess it makes... if you're starting driving from like, the other side of the country, I guess it makes sense. You could go either way, but, like, I don't know.
It's ridiculous. Remember the scene in the beginning where like the guy shows up at the girl's apartment and he's dressed up like the Chatterer Cenobite?
Oh, the Nemesis head one, yeah.
Yeah, it looks just like Nemesis.
Yep, but it turns out he's got a mask. It's just Henry Cavill. It's just Superman. It's just Superman in a mask.
I think that was like part of like why I thought this was a universe where the movies exist, because it seems like, I don't know. I mean, I guess these could just be characters from the game then, as well. That makes sense too.
Which offers its own set of questions though. Like, who made this game? Where did they get all these ideas? Because I was assuming, like, at the start of the movie, I wasn't questioning it because I was thinking, oh, it's the Cenobites themselves have like corrupted the internet or something. But like, yeah, who made this then? If like they've got nothing to do with the game, then like, where did all this imagery come from? How do they know what Pinhead looks like? How do they know what this other Cenobite looks like? When in reality, the reason why that Cenobite's the same Nemesis looking Cenobite from before is because they probably just had that mask lying around. They thought, we'll use this one.
Or they went down to like some Party City store and like bought a Halloween one for like $20.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny, like, there's two stars in this who would go on to be well known for other things. Plus, Lance Henriksen is an oldie but a goodie as far as, like, dependable B-movie actors goes.
Does this movie take place in Britain? Is it a British movie? Well, I guess not, because they're driving in America in the end, I guess. But
do you know, it's funny you say that, because at the start of the movie, I thought Henry Cavill just had his English accent, but then the rest of it he didn't. So I thought, he must have just slipped. He must have just, like, he hadn't quite perfected his American accent yet, so he was slipping a little bit, right? But then, like, the other girl, the girl with the short hair, she had an English accent. But then the other guy had an American accent, and the main girl's got an American accent, and I thought, wait, where's this set? Like, it's literally 50-50. Half the characters have English accents, half of them have American accents. Usually if there's just one, it's like, okay, well, there's one's an outsider who's came to whatever country they're in, but it was like 50-50. I think it was the US, though, just based on the rest of the movie. Okay. But yeah, at the start of the movie, I thought, the English quota was, like, high enough that it could have been England.
Yeah, I think I was looking at like the Wikipedia too earlier to see if there's any interesting facts, but like I think it said it's like a British co-production or something too. So I was like, all right.
That's why there's a couple of British actors in it. Then there you go. Yeah. Makes some sense. This is baffling stuff. What's interesting actually? I'm noticing the writer of this also co-wrote the sixth one.
Dear Lord.
And the co-writer of the sixth one actually went on to co-write the seventh one.
Jesus.
With some other dudes.
I mean, maybe that's why all these movies are bad, because they all just kind of seem to keep the same people around. They're just like not good.
Yeah, I mean, five's kind of its own thing.
Yeah, that's the Scott Derrickson one.
Yeah.
It's notable, I suppose.
Yeah, although to be honest, I think 5 and 6 like blur together in my head more than any of them. Because they're both like cops, I think, if I remember right.
Was the sixth one where like Kirsty comes back and it's like her and her ex-husband or whatever?
It's her and the Vulture from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Whereas it's like a Wahlberg who's in the fifth one, but
yeah. I mean, what do you want? They're all terrible. Like the first one is just so good. Like, I mean, honestly, that might be like one of those rare, like, just 10 out of 10 horror movies for me. I think it's great. Ooh. And then second one, I think is still really good. And then, yeah, like you had said before, that, we both kind of like the third one. Like, it's cheesy, but it's fun. And I even give some credit to that for the fourth one, which, I don't think is like a good movie by any stretch, but at least it has ideas in it that are interesting. And at least it's, has some cheesy fun and whatnot. But yeah, everything after that is just such a slog. And you kind of mentioned like other franchises like Friday and Halloween and stuff. The difference is with like those franchises, like with maybe like some of the remake stuff aside, but like most of the entries I would gladly watch again because they're bad, but at least there's fun to be had with them, and you can watch it with friends and laugh.
Yeah, like Friday the 13th Part 5, I would say is a better movie than the fourth Hellraiser onwards easily, without even thinking about it.
Yeah, and like Halloween Resurrection is absolutely awful, but you know what? If I'm hanging out with some friends and we put that on, we're having a good time. We're gonna be laughing and shit. Like, it's bad. I wish it wasn't part of that franchise, but if you're gonna give me something, at least give me something like that's dumb and I can laugh at. Like this, it's just everything from 4 onward. 5, 6, 7, and 8. These have all just been extremely tedious and a slog to get through, and it's just. Like I like revisiting franchise stuff, but I mean, I can't really imagine like ever wanting to go back and watch any of these again.
Well, we got 2 more to go, and then we're going to have a reboot of some kind, which no doubt is ignoring all the continuity and going back to basics, which in this case doesn't mean a whole lot, given that every sequel's just been a random different thing anyway.
I mean, I think the way to do it is, I really like the Hellraiser mythos, and like I actually think the comic books for Hellraiser, both like the old comic books from like the 80s and then the newer stuff, like from like I'm not sure how long it was now, but longer. But I actually think those are like really good, and a lot of what they do is like it's like anthology stuff. It's and it's not like just Pinhead always coming. Like it'll be like have stuff to do with like the box and incorporates it in like interesting ways. So I think that's probably like a better way to do it instead of trying to turn Pinhead into the slasher villain and like chasing after people with like swords and crap, and I don't know. Again, when you think about the first one, the first two, like Pinhead's not even really like the main villain. Like it's like the Cenobites are like this force to be reckoned with, but they're not chasing people down. It's always like this other force that's trying to use them or sneak by them or get power in some way, and that's like the true bad guy and stuff. So I mean that's the way they should be handled. It shouldn't be like this.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I just checked the new one. I was speaking about it in this sort of like tone as if maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. It's actually already finished filming, so it's definitely happening.
Okay.
So
I mean they cast like the Pinhead, right? It's a woman now. Oh my gosh, my childhood's ruined.
If anything, I feel like the internet is going to like have some weird fetish stuff going on for Lady Pinhead.
Sure. I think generally I think horror fans are usually a bit better about this stuff. If this was a comic book movie, you would have to shut the internet down for like a week. Like it couldn't handle like the angry white men that would be complaining about it. But I think horror is usually a little better with it.
Yeah. So no, cool.
And then I don't know if there was like a series too, like there was like a movie and a series supposedly being worked on. I don't know if that's
supposedly there's also a series been working on, but I don't think we've heard about that for a little while, so I don't know where that is in like status.
I will say if that is the case, I think it could actually work again if you do like I could see a series working like again if you're doing kind of the comic book model and it's more like anthology, like one-off stories each episode. I could see that working. I can see how you're gonna have those simultaneously. And I don't know, I've been liking horror TV lately, so I wouldn't mind a Hellraiser series.
Yeah. Oh, to be fair, the movie's a straight to Hulu movie, so.
Ooh.
So
All right, we'll see.
We'll see.
Hello.
Yeah, so I mean, if it's finished shooting, it's definitely going to be coming next year. Then there's no way it's not going to be next year. So
gotta ramp up and finish these last two.
Well, I mean, we only have two left though, so it wouldn't be that hard to squeeze them in. If they drop like it's coming in March, it's like we can squeeze those in easily enough.
Right in for my birthday.
That's why they're releasing it in March potentially. I mean, I don't know. We don't know when they're released. I just threw it March. I pulled that out of my ass. That's fine. Yeah. I really have nothing else to. I feel like this one almost gave us less stuff to talk about, even though the twist and the ending is a bit crazier than the last few. I feel like those had like weirder moments like in the build up that we could like critique.
Yeah.
This one just all sort of blends together.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not much to talk about. Like the deaths are very forgettable. I don't even remember if you even like see that much. I remember like the girl was having like some like machine thing was going into her throat or whatever.
It was like a Saw-esque.
It felt very Saw. Yeah.
Actually, speaking of that, there wasn't so much the quick editing, but it did that really annoying thing that I hate from this time period, where like I think it's when they're coming into the mansion, where the camera will speed up for a few seconds and then slow back down again, just so they walk quicker into a room or something. It gives it this like hyperkinetic sort of thing, and I'm like, I hate this. This feels like tangential to like Saw editing kind of thing. So yeah, I have like the goddamn description in IMDb even calls the game an MMORPG. Like, I'm sorry, but what we saw of that looked like a Flash game from Newgrounds, which makes sense given the time period, to be honest. But
like, what are you doing? Like, are you like running around like chopping up like pinheads and stuff? Like, I would like a proper Hellraiser game though. I'd be cool with that.
What would the Hellraiser game actually be though, Tim?
I don't know, but I'd play it. I feel like you would have to make it like Silent Hill-esque, where maybe like with like, yeah, probably not going to be a lot of combat, but it'd be like a lot of exploring, and like kind of freaky puzzles and like weird creatures and stuff. I feel like that's the way you could do it, but
okay,
could be cool. I mean, it's like anything. If you get proper people behind it, it could be cool. If you just try to get some quick studio, do a little cash grab, it's not going to be great. But yeah, I mean, don't make it an MMO RPG. That's probably not the way to go.
I mean, if
it would be funny if at some point someone did like burst through the door and say like Leroy Jenkins.
That's a dated reference, Tim, but sure. I feel like there's children today who do memes on the internet who weren't around for Leroy Jenkins.
For sure. Hey, he lives on in my heart.
Do you know, that's kind of weird that the internet is old enough now at this point that there's like memes and jokes from the earlier days that are now like only old people know them.
It's true.
It's kind of weird. I remember a time before YouTube existed, and I feel ancient saying that. Behave. All right. Well, I guess we could just rate this stupid thing then. Like, I don't know if it's the worst one though. Like those last like 3 were all really terrible.
It's so hard because I don't remember them that well. Like I remember bits and pieces, but I don't remember like the movie as a whole. Mm-hmm. So like I remember not liking any of them, but I mean I do feel like this could be the worst one, but it might just be because it's the one I watched most recently and remember the best.
I think I was so pleasantly surprised we weren't following a detective or a journalist investigating something that it felt slightly bit, and I do mean slightly, like let's not like make this sound any more positive than it needs to be.
Right. Yeah.
Because it is garbage. This is a garbage movie that I never want to see again. Garbage. Yes. It was I was dreading watching it. I was not expecting anything of note, and it was every bit of tedious, unlikable characters and unlikable, like, editing of the time period and all sorts. So, So with that said, Timmy, would you like to rate Hellraiser Hellworld?
I mean, I gotta go real low.
How low can you go?
I mean, I think it's gotta be a 2. Like, I can't think of anything that's good about it, like even with bad movies, sometimes I'll be like, this was dumb, but I like this idea, I like this character, I like this kill, I can't think of anything at all I liked about this. Like even the idea of like, I was kind of excited, as a guy that likes video games, I was kind of excited that we're gonna see some video game stuff and probably have some cheesy video game stuff with it, but even that, there's like nothing there, and like the maybe possibly a little bit of potential there like just feels wasted. But I mean, like what is there with this? It's boring. I don't think I was ever entertained at any part. I wasn't even like laughing at an ironic like cheesy level. It's not so over the top or outrageous. It's good. Like the kills aren't good. There's no gore. The characters are just lifeless and charming or not charming. Nothing. It doesn't look good. It feels very cheap. It feels stupid. The twist is just like, it's one of those kind of twists. Like there are twists that, catch you by surprise and are really interesting and make you re-examine the whole movie. There are twists that like are kind of confounding, but at least like they're going for a big swing. And then there are twists like this where it just feels like a waste of my time. Like you just wasted 90 minutes of my time with this dumb bullshit that like I didn't need to see. And it makes everything that was like, all right, well, this movie should have been 15 minutes then. Like, you should have just showed us the coffin stuff right away instead of wasting our time with all this crap that didn't happen. That's just all in their heads and doesn't matter. Which, I mean, if you're going to do, like, dream stuff, hallucination stuff, like, I'm not against it, but, it better be damn good and look good and be interesting and provocative, and it's nothing. So I mean, I feel like I'm being gracious by even giving it 2 points. Like, I guess the fact that
the technical standards were higher than Birdemic, so I mean that's
sure, yeah. Like the camera wasn't pointed at people's feet when they were talking, so it's like there's some points with that. It wasn't so dark that I couldn't tell what was going on, so there's your few points for that. It's
the only thing I'll slightly correct is you said there was no gore. I think there is some gore. I think you're forgetting a few
barely any
moments. And there's
I don't think
most of it
much.
looks pretty bad. Don't get me wrong. Like some of it's really bad CG, but there's a little bit of gore.
A little bit, yeah. Okay, I'm like, yeah. There's not absolute zero, but there's not that much.
I'm putting it out there, Tim, before some asshole in the comments is like, well, actually, did this guy even watch the movie? There was oodles of gore in this scene, in this scene. Yeah, I guess I kind of need to just kind of agree with the two. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, what are you gonna give it points for? Like, what? Yeah, there's nothing like even marginally likable about it.
Yeah, I just the average of this franchise has to be one of the lowest of like any like long running horror franchise.
Absolutely.
By the time we're done, like I may do some math and we'll figure out what my averages are for Halloween and like Friday and Nightmare and all that.
Like, do you remember the last one? Like, again, I don't remember the movie that well, but I remember like at the end, it got kind of crazy and like Pinhead came out of here, and I think he had like chains that were like whipping around and like slicing into people, and it was like really bad CGI, but like
yes I do.
At least that was something that was memorable, and it was stupid, but at least I could point at that and like get excited for a second and be like, okay, this is dumb but kind of cool or whatever. Like, there's nothing like that in this movie. Like, there's nothing that I can go like, all right, this is stupid, I don't really like what it's doing, but oh hey, that was kind of cool, my interest is peaked. Like, there's nothing like that in this one.
Well, there you go. That's Hellraiser Hellworld.
Maybe you're a bad person if you like it. I'm just putting it out there. Stop listening to the show if you like this movie.
I don't disagree. So
it's trying to alienate like people.
No one. You're not alienating anyone because no one likes this movie, Tim. Right? No one likes this movie. So Tim's going to pose for the thumbnail. So and I'm going to tell him off because last time he cut off the top of his head and it looks really stupid in the thumbnail because like there's just this flat line at the top of his head. But 3, 2, 1, pose. What is this?
I was doing my Henry Cavill impression.
Just stoically watching as getting a blowjob.
Yeah.
No feeling whatsoever. Yes, well, that has been the episode. You can, of course, support everything we do in the show by hitting the like button, subscribing, commenting down below. Let us know what you think of the movie, or let us know what you think of the episode of the show. Oh, it's always nice to hear praise and things. That's always nice. But you can do all that for free. You can support us financially with a little bit of money over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses for your trouble. These specific bonuses for Screams After Midnight are not back in play yet. Those will be coming back sometime early 2022. But you can just generally support things in the meantime and get bonuses for other shows. So go and have a look. See. Otherwise, though, that's pretty much it. I'll just mention Twitter at Screams Midnight for all your Male Fuzz movies Twitter needs. And that's about it. Oh, and as far as the schedule, I suppose, actually, because we have a rough kind of idea. We're more or less going to be doing an episode every other week for the rest of this year, and then we'll see how things progress going into 2022. But that's the plan. So you get a couple episodes in November, and you get a couple of Christmas episodes in December, and we'll take it from there. So, voila.
That's right. There you go.
Okay. Well, that is. Did they ever had Pinhead to Dead by Daylight? Was he? Yeah, because they added a lot of character. I'm just wondering if he ever actually made it into a video game.
Yeah. Good question.
Do you know what? I'm just going to Google it quickly just to wrap up the show. Let's find out.
I think there was supposed to be like a Nintendo game that got scrapped. Could be wrong about that.
Oh, it looks like he might have done. Maybe.
Okay.
Yep. Pinhead did make it into Dead by Daylight, which is a multiplayer game that's played by lots of people. So.
Oh my god, this movie was ahead of its time.
Reality has kind of caught up to the prophecy of Hellworld. But that is the show, guys. Thank you very much for joining us once again. We always appreciate it. Keep tuned for next time, but we'll see you then. Keep watching scary movies, and they'll tear your soul apart in terrible sequels, piece by piece by piece by piece by piece.